MLS Aces Podcast. This is episode 258. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and I only got one partner in soccer with me. I'll take the extra time reference there. One partner in soccer, Jason Viveng. Jason, how are you, man? Thank you for
holding it down today.
I mean,
It'll be fun.
Look, when it's one-on-one conversation, I think we both get to express ourselves more, which is nice. But I do miss talking Sam, Vaughn, all that stuff. So
we need all four of us on eventually.
Eventually, it'll happen. Eventually, we will
one
have
of these weeks
where someone's not like, "Hey guys, I can't do tonight," and it is what it is. But that's a little sneak peek into the group chat of the four of us. But a sneak peek for later on this episode here for the MLS Aces podcast is I have a conversation with Charlotte FC right back Jaylin Lindsey. We talked a bunch about their 2-1 win over Orlando City, picking up their first win of the 2023 season. Jaylin Lindsey's sick ass assist to Enzo Copetti. He just bombed that ball deep, so it was fantastic. Joked around with him a little bit about that, and talking a little bit of preparation about the Red Bulls this upcoming weekend and more about that pretty much. But stay tuned for the end of this episode for my conversation with Jaylin. Great kid. Glad I was able to catch up with him and kind of give Charlotte a little bit of love since Vaughn isn't going to be on this podcast. But Jason, let's kind of quickly talk about some moves. You and I were talking before the podcast that we don't know enough about these guys to really dive deep enough to, I think, give fair takes on how they're going to either improve or do nothing for their team.
Some are also like U22 initiative. Like, it's not like they have that many games where we're pulling from a huge amount of knowledge here.
I mean, look, you're right. I think 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there was the 2 I didn't put on the notes. 3 of the 7 signings were U22 initiative signings, which is awesome, right? Like, it's cool to see MLS investing in younger talent. Chicago signing a U22 initiative left back, Alonso Aceves on loan from Pachuca. LA Galaxy signing a U22 initiative left back. That could be a theme. Julian Aude from FC Lanús. And then today, Minnesota signing a U22 initiative striker, Sang Bin Jong from Wolves. And he was out on loan in, I think, the Eredivisie, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think some of those two are like depth pieces or building pieces, kind of, to build into the coming years.
I mean, personally, I think you're right. I think U22 initiative signings in my eyes are like, okay, like they can be our backup left back, they can be a backup striker, whatever. And we hope that eventually this U22 guy turns into a DP level striker, a high TAM level midfielder, whatever.
Jan Durant.
Exactly, Jan Durant. I think even Jesus Ferreira, when the U22 came out, he was technically a U22 that went into a DP or something like that. Diego Palacios for LAFC, he was a U22 guy, right? Like, so there is value in the U22s. I just don't think for Chicago, for LA Galaxy, or for Minnesota, you're going to see that right away. If you see it right away, great. But I think
then they hit pretty well.
It's exactly right. Then it's just the reality of the situation. I think some players who are going to be a little bit more immediate impacts onto their MLS rosters. I know Austin FC just loaned in a center back from the Belgian top division, Alexander Radanovic, 29-year-old guy. Austin FC needs center backs. They need defensive help. Makes sense that they brought him in on a loan.
For sure. That was for sure like a, oh, shit.
Exactly. That was we can't have Alex Spring play center back the entire season.
Yeah.
DC United, they brought in a loanee midfielder, Lewis O'Brien from Nottingham Forest. So maybe Wayne Rooney pulling from a few of his English strings there, but short-term loan. So we'll see if anything happens with that. Montreal bringing back center back Gabriel Corbo, this time on a permanent transfer from Bologna. We saw a little bit of Corbo 2 years ago, last year, I think. He's still young. We'll see what he can do or what he can turn into. And then I think the move we can talk a little bit more about is Nashville SC. They signed free agent center midfielder Jan Gregus he's a midfielder, but he most recently played with San Jose is where I was getting at. But we've obviously seen a lot of Jan Greguš in MLS between his time in Minnesota, San Jose. He is an international, right? He's played for Slovakia at the highest level. He has won, in Denmark and everything like that. We know he's a very talented player, and, he's getting maybe towards that post-30 age gap now, but
32.
I like the move for Nashville. I don't think he's a starter. I think if, Nashville's going to roll with Annabelle Godoy or Dax McCarty at the one kind of central midfield spot, and then Sean Davis at the other central midfield spot, I like the idea of bringing in Jan Greguš maybe for a Sean Davis, kind of the closest you're going to get to a like for like, I think, in that midfield.
I also think, like, Nashville, a team, already they're in fourth currently with, only 4 weeks in, but – 1 goal conceded the whole season. I think that's that's tied for best in the league with Seattle.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's hard to doubt these guys at this point. They know what they're doing. Plus, it's a free agent. There's very little risk involved. If if something goes wrong, if he gets hurt, if something else happens, they just move on. The worst case scenario, I guess, is just not having him or him not playing or not being good, which is, not great. Obviously, they brought him in to do a good job, but it's not like anything crazy. Also, another person who has a lot of games under his belt, someone who's, level-headed in the locker room, just building on what they are building as a club, and I think he kind of fits in there.
I think he fits well, right? Gary Smith, we know the type of style he likes to play. It's defensive soccer. I know Jan Greguš is not a defensive guy. We know him for his passing ability, but if we're going to have maybe a Jan Greguš at this point in his career being maybe a little bit more of a creative force from a lower midfield spot, I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. As a lot of minutes that need to be eaten up. We've said that maybe 500 times already this season.
Depth is super important. Look at Austin. That's a great example of where depth is sort of drying up and it's not going well.
Exactly. And look, as we talk, there's a game on my TV right now for the US Open Cup, right? Like games and competitions are starting. So it's really going to be a necessity for depth. And I think it's nice for Nashville that Greguš has an understanding of Major League Soccer. He's played here for years. He's had success here. He's been a very good player in Major League Soccer for the past few years. I think San Jose was a little bit of a decline, but who didn't have a decline at San Jose last year, right? So at this point, I think, hey, they're good this year, maybe kind of. So they're last week I was way more confident than this week on San Jose. But good signing for Nashville, bringing in a guy like Greguš. Let's steer away from the signings because that was really it. And like I said last week, we're going to get less and less signings. And actually, before I dive into Week 4 coverage, I do want to give a little U.S. Open Cup love and a shout out to Ocean City Nor'easters. I don't know what position he plays. I'm so sorry. But Andres Latorre, he absolutely hit a banger in their 3-1 win in the U.S. Open Cup over Westchester United. So shout out to Andres because that ball is still ripping through the back of the net. Like, if you guys haven't seen it, it's on the MLS Aces Twitter. It's on the Bleacher Report Twitter now that Bleacher Report has full coverage of the Open Cup. So go check it out. Andres Latorre absolutely just rips one through for Ocean City Nor'easters. But let's dive into Week 4 because that's more important right now than the Ocean City Nor'easters. Sorry, guys.
It was a nice goal, though, to be fair.
Let's talk a little Seattle Sounders LAFC. I think last week when we were talking about games that we were excited for Week 4, this is the immediate one. I think, Jason, you said it. Like, this was the immediate one that stood out to you.
It'd be hard not to mention this one if you wanted to talk about the week.
It's literally the reigning MLS Cup champions against the reigning CONCACAF Champions League winners. Like, this is literally what this game was was built up to be. I'm expecting this 3-2 game. I'm expecting some flashy goals. Dennis Bouanga, Raul Rui Diaz, Jordan Morris, all these guys, right? Turns out it's a 0-0 draw because that's what we get from Seattle LAFC is a 0-0 draw. To me, this game was an opportunity for one team to kind of show their dominance over the other, or show that they could be that team that's just slightly better in the Western Conference or in Major League Soccer. I think we had a major stalemate on our hands, and it was a defensive showing for both sides. So I have to give the love to the defenses, where maybe with Seattle and LAFC, you don't immediately think back line, you don't immediately think defense, but both of these defenses showed out.
I honestly feel like with LAFC, obviously they had a midweek match where they kind of went in knowing they were clear.
Yeah.
And they did move on in CCL. But I almost feel like Seattle had more to prove here against LAFC than the other way around. Just from the standpoint that, like, if you play LAFC on a week where they don't, I mean, this, I guess it's just speculation, but on a week where they don't have a midweek game, how does it go then if this was a 0-0, right? Like, on much fresher legs, where they don't have to play it's like 5 games in 2 weeks or whatever this would probably end up with.
Yeah.
With 2 CCL games and 3 weeks of MLS.
Yeah.
And we're early in the season, so obviously it was a defensive game, but I almost feel like LAFC probably were preferring it to be defensive, less, aggression in the attack potentially.
So are you leaning more towards that this was almost we'll get super like sports casty here, like is this more of like a win for LAFC in the draw because it was a midweek action, they were on the road, it's up against Seattle, like is that what you're leaning towards? Or
I think the result for LAFC was good, right? Was better than what Seattle was probably, at home. We obviously know, MLS is it's very hard to win away. But I don't know. I feel like from LAFC's standpoint, we didn't learn a ton from this game with them. I kind of just expected Seattle to do a little bit more.
Fair. I think that's fair, right? It's tough. I'm trying to look at the 2 lineups right now for LAFC against Alajuelense midweek, and then their lineup against Seattle. I am seeing a lot of the same starters. Palacios and Palencia both started in both games. Vela started in both games. Apoku started in both games. Ilie Sanchez started in both games. And Timothy Tillman started in both games for LAFC. So you're talking about what I just named 6 dudes who started a midweek game and then going out on the weekend and starting that game.
Like 180 minutes in
4
days or whatever.
And I mean, look, if you even want to go to the bench, right? Like Jose Cifuentes, he started midweek and then he came off the bench for LAFC on the weekend, right? So there's cases of that. So I think that's a good point of like LAFC probably were just trying to get a result out of this on the road after playing 90 minutes against Alajuelense, losing, and you probably are kind of pissed off about that because they should be winning a game like that, even though they do advance.
I mean, even though they went into it, 3-0 up, to lose that is like these guys don't want to lose any game, especially LAFC. Like they are in a point where they could be like doing historic things this year.
I think that's so like that's the thing about LAFC, and we're going to go into a whole side tangent about LAFC. It's LAFC, I think before they ever won an MLS Cup, fans and everyone were like crowning them like the kings of MLS, right? Like this is the way you do it, blah, 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 all that stuff. They win a supporter shield and they don't win MLS Cup. And I think that kind of took a big hit. Then they win a supporter shield, win MLS Cup. And now it's like, okay, we did it. We won the league. Now let's go win internationally. And again, I've said this 100 times already on the podcast before of LAFC have come out and said that they want to win Champions League. They want to be international. They want to win.
They want to be a club known everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean,
They've showed their success in MLS. Now they want to show their success on the world stage, make it to that Club World Cup, whatever it may be. But in order to, I think, be the dominant force that they want to be, they have to keep up that play in Major League Soccer as well, right? Because you can't just – we saw what Seattle did last year. They won CCL and they missed the playoffs. I don't think LAFC wants to do that. I think LAFC wants to go out, dominate MLS again in 2023, and then win CCL in 2023. Like, they
100%.
want to win multiple trophies. And I guess it's good to have the mindset of being pissed off that you lose 2-1 to Alajuelense, at home midweek, and then you trying to bounce back and face maybe the toughest opponent you're going to face in the Western Conference in Seattle and draw 0-0 on the road. But they want more. They're hungry for more. And I think that's what makes this LAFC so great and so much fun to watch, and this front office so much fun to watch how they're building this roster, is because they get how to win. They just get the formula, and they're doing it right, and it's fun to watch. So that's why fans or anyone watching or listening, like, this is why we talk about LAFC, because like we all want our teams to do what LAFC is doing, but no one does that.
So like you're saying, they set their own expectations.
Yes.
And then we also have what we expect to see coming off a season like they just had.
Yes.
And both of those things are just like very high expectations that I almost feel like we hold them to a different level without being like, oh, they're this great. But like, anyone would be happy, first of all, to get a draw in Seattle, probably. Pretty much any team.
Yes.
Obviously, the win is the goal. But like, if you come out of Seattle 0-0, no injuries or whatever, you're probably pretty happy. But I just feel like with LAFC, we're looking at a team that they want to be at this super high level. So we all have to hold them to that.
Yes.
And that's kind of what this is. But I also do think that this is a pretty good, like, going back to what I was originally saying with this game specifically, it's still a pretty good result.
Oh, it's a great result.
Yeah.
I think that what makes LAFC great, what makes this the team on the field great, the coaching staff, the front office great, is after a loss midweek and then a draw away at Seattle, they're not happy. Like, they want to win both. Like, and obviously everyone wants to win, right? I'm not sitting here and saying like NYCFC, they want to go out and lose this game this week. Like, no, that's not what's happening. But
no, I think it's pretty obvious, like, the difference. No one wants to lose, but they have like a bit of a higher bar for themselves.
Exactly. I think LAFC holds themselves to standards that maybe only a Seattle Sounders in Major League Soccer hold themselves to, right? No offense to Colorado Rapids. No one in that organization is holding them to a standard anywhere close to what LAFC Seattle are doing currently, what Toronto FC did a few years ago, the Galaxy in the early 2000s and all that. Like, no one in certain organizations.
Atlanta for those Almiron years.
I still even think Atlanta holds themselves to a standard.
Well, I think they believe they're in that level. And maybe sometimes they aren't, but they definitely believe they're there, which is a pretty good thing to believe.
I think for any person who's successful, I think for any club who's successful, anything like that, is you have to have a little bit of like
just delusion.
Delusion's a perfect word. Yeah. A little delusion of I am the best. This is the best. We are talking, and this is the best conversation about Major League Soccer. We are the best MLS podcast.
Yeah,
and everyone wants to listen to us, right? That's
not delusion, though. That's just fact.
Sorry. Is there anything else about the Seattle LAFC game that you wanna chat about? Because I love this conversation, but we really are steering away from the game itself.
I mean, I think it was a bigger conversation based on the games.
Yes.
I'm pretty happy with it, but I mean, should we mention your note about Joao Paulo? I mean, he's been incredible, and they've needed him.
I mean, look, I've said it every single week. Joao Paulo changes that Seattle Sounders midfield, changes the entire team. I won't go down my rabbit hole again. Literally listen to every single episode we've put out since week one has been completed. Yeah. I've talked about Joao Paulo. Game changer.
Week after week, he's putting in performances where you're like, all right, now we can see what happened last year to this year.
It's very rare that we see a dude who's, what is he, a 6? Is he a more defensive 8? Whatever the hell you want to call him, right? He's not like an attacking, flashy midfielder, but it's very rare that you see a guy like Joao Paulo stand out when you're watching a game. like the Diego Chars of the world, the Ozzy Alonsos of the, back when he was playing for Seattle and stuff like that. Like those are the times you see deeper lying midfielders change games, and Joao Paulo does that to a T. And I think if the Seattle Sounders are successful in 2023 and they raise any kind of trophy, I'm going to heavily say it's because of Joao Paulo in that midfield, in that fold. But let's move forward. Let's move to a team who we've talked about a lot. We'll continue to talk about it. I don't want to.
If they keep doing this, we have to, though.
It's to a point where, yes, we have to talk about them. I won't drag it on too long. And Jason, you and I are the worst two people, because I think you and I have given them the most love on this podcast. But
yeah, probably.
Atlanta United smacking down a Portland Timbers side, which I will say I think has the most injuries to their roster in Major League Soccer. Most injuries
decimated
to starters, key players, whatever you want to say. So I will say that it was a 5-1 win for Atlanta, but Portland, this is not a full-strength Portland Timbers squad. We'll see if they ever get full strength this season. Hopefully they do for their own sake, but they win 5-1. Atlanta United wins 5-1 behind their MVP. He has to be the MVP leader at this point. Thiago Almada, 2 goals and 2 assists from Almada in this game. Another absolute banger of a goal. He is making everyone around him better. I think, Jason, you said it last week that he just attracts so much attention and then has the skill on top of it to unleash everyone else around him. Unleash a Caleb Wiley, who scored again. Unleash a Luis Araujo, who scored in this one.
I mean, he's a great example, because we've seen him have some very bad performances in MLS.
Yes.
And I think us, including a lot of other people going into the season, were like, this is make or break. You got to step up, or it's sort of the experience is done. And I mean, he better go buy Thiago tons of dinners or something. I don't know, man, because he is reaping massive benefits of it. Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I think you're 100% right, because I think when we came into the season and when I talked to Sam Jones during the offseason to do kind of my quick preview of Atlanta United, Sam Jones even said this to me of the conversation around Araujo. It's not Araujo. It's not. I always want to go Araujo. It's Araujo. Yeah. Around Araujo is that if you can get a DP level performance out of him in 2023, Atlanta United can win the Eastern Conference and can win MLS Cup. 1,000%. That is true. But we have not seen consistent DP level performances from Araujo. If Thiago Almada is the guy who can unlock that or grab the attention so that it frees Araujo up, and then you have a brand new DP striker in Giamakis who scored his opening goal for Atlanta United this past weekend. You have Caleb Wiley, Derek Etienne Jr., Matthias Rossetto, the midfielder who kind of sits below Almada. He's been great. The defense has been much better, right? Like, this Atlanta United team is clicking on all cylinders, and my brain immediately goes to, it's because of Almada. Like, he is the engine that keeps things going. He is the Miggy Almiron to this Atlanta United squad, the way Miggy was when Josef was balling, and Yamil Assad was on the other side, and Darlington Nagbe was sitting behind him, and all of that, right? Almada is as important to this Atlanta United squad as Miggy Almiron was to the multiple championship winning Atlanta United squads of a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone could look at any of these games and not come to that conclusion. Like, he's just he opens up so much space. Obviously, we were talking about it last week after they put up what I think it was 3-0 to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And he's like pulling the strings, like someone who does the puppet thing. I don't know.
He's a puppeteer. There you go. He pulls the strings like someone who pulls the strings.
I mean, so again, like, I'm going to say it again, because each week I'm going to do this as they keep putting in good defensive performances. Miles Robinson is back.
Yep.
Okay. Gutman, you put on here. Gutman is also killing it.
I couldn't just put Miles Robinson. Andrew Gutman's also having very good.
Yeah, that is fair. I think with the situation with Robinson and how he's come back.
Yeah.
Is I said in our preview pod, I said if he's at or near and he can get to that level again, they're going to be great on defense. Their 3 goals conceded is, obviously through 4 weeks, there's not a ton to draw from that. Besides, that is lower in the league. But I don't think even I expected it to be this fast.
That's what I was about to say, is that he has come back, and I don't even think he's hitting Miles Robinson performances that we saw pre-injury yet. Mm-hmm. But he's come back to a very high level very, very quickly. And it's honestly been a pleasure to see. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that hurt Atlanta United last year was a ton of injuries, right? A consistent amount of injuries and a ton of injuries to the center back position. Miles Robinson, he is that Walker Zimmerman on your team, that dude that you throw in there, you Sharpie him in, and when he's playing, you're going to have a good defensive performance from your team that night. So you got to give love to Miles Robinson.
And their spacing just as a team, whether it's Almada or Robinson or Gutman or, Arajo, Etienne comes on, it just always, it feels like they, how last week we were talking about Charlotte, and obviously Charlotte got a win this week that we'll talk about a little bit, but we were talking about how it felt positionless almost, or like where people didn't know where to be. It feels like the opposite currently with Atlanta, where it's almost like let Almada do his thing, but everyone else around him knows exactly where to be to make the best performance for themselves that makes the team better.
And that's kind of where I say it's almost like Almada is the Miguel Almiron to this team. And I say it in the sense of this. I think when Atlanta United was doing its thing, they had great players all over the field, right? Michael Parkhurst is a legendary MLS center back. Yamil Assad was very good for a long time. Darlington Nagbe, we know what he brought, right? But at the end of the day, when you watch that team for a dude who drew all the attention and had the technical ability to create anywhere on the field in a Miguel Almiron, and a dude that could absolutely put away any opportunity he wanted to in Josef Martinez, where that's where I'm saying if Giamakis can kind of adjust to MLS quickly, and like I said, he scored his first goal. It was a very nice goal. If he can adjust to Major League Soccer and help out Almada in the scoring end of things, I think this team has potential to be very, very fun. And for Atlanta United fans' sake, they better do it very quickly, because I don't think you're hanging out to Thiago Almada.
I was going to say we have to bring up that fact.
I mean, look, I think it's realistic. And again, I'm not sitting here from any point of view of I know things. I just think it's very realistic. You could see him gone in the summer. I can understand if Pineda and everyone wants to hang on to him for a full season, you sell him next year. I can understand that. But I think it's one of those two options. It's either he's gone this summer or he's gone in the winter.
He's not here next season. I'll tell you that.
No.
100% no.
Exactly. Is he breaking MLS records for you? Is he breaking MLS transfer records for you?
Oh, yeah.
I personally think yes. I don't want to just agree with you to agree with you, but
I mean, I don't think that's that hot of a take. I think it's, what is currently the record? 40?
I can look it up if you give me one second.
I think personally that he's at a level right now. I mean, if it happens in the winter, maybe. It kind of depends if he can keep what he's doing up the whole season, which I think we both believe that he has that ability to keep this up for a full season. But I definitely think if he goes in the summer, Atlanta's not going to sell easily their best player and a potential MVP mid-season for not a record fee. That's what I feel like.
Okay, I got the answers in right now. Thank you. Thank you for stalling. The highest pure transfer fee without any sell-ons or anything like that is Miguel Almiron to Newcastle for $24 million.
Okay. Yeah, then easily.
I mean, look, I think Atlanta United have the track record in the market, right? You sold Miguel Almiron, who I mean, the dude's a baller in the Premier League this year. I know he's hurt right now, and that sucks. But I mean, he's a very good player. He is the transfer record. You know, they also sit up there with Pity Martinez, who is 5th in the transfer sold at what is it, 16 million euros.
That's good business.
I mean, they lost money on him, I think. But
yeah, I think they probably did.
You have a 21-year-old World Cup winner, and yes, I know he played 9 minutes, and yes, I know he was an injury replacement, but
I don't think that matters, though. I think the amount that he played doesn't in the World Cup doesn't matter as much as the fact that he was in that locker room, winning a World Cup with that team.
I mean, look, I think you're right. I think 100% you're right. I'm just saying, I think there would be some people who could argue the point that we're trying to make of it's so easy to say, yes, he's going to break the MLS transfer record. I personally think, yes, he is. Maybe we're living too much in the hype of like, it's right in front of our faces.
What are you doing, though? Like, if we're obviously saying this based on projecting out kind of what we've seen till summer at minimum. And if you're to project these performances out, maybe it tails off a little. But even if it tails off a little, it's still incredible. I think he's got like 8 goal contributions.
I have it right here. So if you go on the MLS website and you just click on the stats section, his face is just plastered all over it. He leads MLS in the Golden Boot category with 4 goals. He is tied for the lead in assists with Daniel Gajdag with 4 assists, and he leads MLS in key passes with 13. Like, he's the star of Major League Soccer through 4 weeks, 1,000%. So
also, if you keep scrolling for club stats, goals, Atlanta's in first. Assists, Atlanta's in first. Goals outside the 18, they have 4. There's at least 3 of them that are his.
It might be all his. I know 3 are.
Off the top of my head, I can definitely say 3.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of the 4th, but I'll end the Almada conversation here because I don't want to make
the 4th might have been Araujo in the Charlotte game last week. Was he outside the box?
I don't know.
It was like on the 18.
At this, I'm hitting. It's 4 weeks in and it's bad, but I'm hitting the point of the season where goals and games are blending into each other. So I have to clear that up. But Thiago Almada, fantastic. Atlanta United have come out swinging to start 2023.
What do you feel like before we completely move on? How do you feel about Caleb Wiley? Like, is this because of Almada that he's having these performances? I think partially, yes, that's just a given. But how much so do you believe?
Look, Caleb Wiley is an interesting case to me because, I mean, last year he was the backup left back at Atlanta. You know, he was the backup left back and he was playing a little bit of left wing as well. But again, all on a backup level, all on a level of, you know, there was a ton of injuries and Andrew Gutman was out, or Andrew Gutman had to go play center back. So Wiley's playing left back or left wing back because they had to shift formation, right? So he was playing a little out of position last year. And he's a very, very young kid, but it's not like, you know, he's been overlooked at the youth national team level. He's been recognized at the youth national team level. He is a known commodity.
He's clearly talented
player. He's clearly a talented player. Whether he's, you know, I think he's not a pure left back. I think he is like he would play a left wing back, a left winger, a left midfielder.
Alfonso Davies type.
So, yes, I mean honestly, yes. And the fact that he keeps on getting starts over Derek Etienne Jr., who they brought in free agency, who is a solidified, very good player in Major League Soccer. And through 4 weeks, he has 5 goal contributions and 3 goals and 2 assists. Yes, Almada's setting it all up. And yes, you have Araujo on the other side, but you still have to convert your chances, and he's doing it. So I'm not going to completely say it's like, he's not doing it. It's everyone else setting him up, but you still have to.
I mean, Etienne's coming in and I don't think he has 5 goal contributions.
he does not.
I mean.
But what I'm saying is Almada has 8 goal contributions. Araujo has 3 and Caleb Wiley has 5, right? So it's like everyone on that front line is clicking at this point. I'm interested to see what Caleb Wiley does when maybe goals aren't flowing the same way, maybe during the summer and midweek, but there's no doubt that the kid's extremely talented. The last person or the last thing I want to say about this game is just shout out 19-year-old Tega Ikoba, striker for Portland Timbers. He scored in the 83rd minute, scored his, I think his first goal for the Portland Timbers. So, I mean, in a big loss, shout out for you breaking that shutout and getting your first goal. And his parents were in attendance at the Atlanta United Stadium.
And they didn't have Evander for this game, so
no, Evander out.
I feel like we didn't mention that, and that is a big deal.
Evander, I mean, like, went through, I guess, a bunch of key players out. Evander being the most key player out of that.
Well, the one that we expect to be the carrier, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say for a very poor game from mostly everyone on Portland, Eric Williamson still looked pretty damn good in that midfield. Mm-hmm. It's hard to look good when you lose 5-1 and he still looked good-ish. So I'll give Williamson the love.
I think we've given him so much love. If he never got hurt, oh man.
If he never got hurt, same thing, you know what? Like, not to the same level because they're not the same level player, but like same thing about Hassani Dotson. Like when he got hurt last year, like he was getting call-ups to the USMNT and not looking half bad. Like if Hassani Dotson never got hurt, I would be interested to see where he'd be at this point, because I do feel like he could be like a Belgian league quality European player, something like that. And,
I think Eric Williamson was definitely on that trajectory to be in Europe.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't know if that ticket's ever going to come for him again, to be honest, but it is what it is. Let's move on to. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I love him. I appreciate him. Let's move on, Jason, a little bit down the notes list to St. Louis, because I feel like they're the next most important thing to kind of shine some light on, because St. Louis City SC created some history this past weekend in Week 4. They became the first ever MLS expansion team to win their first 4 games in club history. I think a lot of people, including myself, I said it was a lot of luck. It was a lot of teams, making mistakes against them and everything like that. And you were the first person to say it last week, when Vaughn and I were talking about that they created their own luck, that they are putting themselves into position and they are playing a very, I think, pressuring style of soccer that may create mistakes on the other end. And that's not luck. That's on purpose. And I think St. Louis City continued to do that. They beat down on San Jose this past week. And I mean, I have to apologize. It's not luck. The St. Louis City team knows what they're doing. Do I still have my long-term doubts and concerns? Yes, but they're winning and they've started to look like, the best team in Major League Soccer through 4 weeks. So I got to give them my love. But I guess we'll start with you, Jason. I mean, setting an MLS record is no small feat to do.
It's harder with each team that gets added too. It's not like oh man, a team. I think the Fire won their first 3, or they won their first 2, but that was in 99.
99.
99.
98 and 89.
One of those years. But I think it's obviously much harder now to do that. The talent's much higher. The league is larger. There's more money. And going back to like the whole luck conversation, which I think it's almost unfair now. Like to say that they're just lucky would be just completely wrong. But I do think they are still playing a style that is putting themselves into positions to pounce on mistakes that other teams make.
And I would just add to that, not pounce on positions. I'm going to say the way they play forces opponents to make mistakes, not just capitalize on when there is a mistake.
I almost feel like some of them are unforced, but
some of them have been. Yeah. But I think that the way they play does force opponents. You feel pressure.
They're relentless as a team, right? Yeah. They're not going to stop. They're going to play the full 90 at the same exact. They're coming at you with everything every time. And can they keep it up? Like you're saying, we don't know. There's doubts still, but
I have that. I don't know. I've lived in New York area my entire life, and I've watched Red Bull games in person and Red Bull games on TV against NYCFC. It looks great to start a season. I would never doubt that. You absolutely can run all over your opponents, especially when they're tired or not in form or not in shape or whatever. But come the playoffs, am I going to think St. Louis is, we're going to outmuscle you, outrun you energy is going to still be there? It's a long season. And that's
there's 2 points to that. Like, one or whatever, they I don't even know where I was going with this. They basically are running at their opponents, right? They have all this energy. It gets harder to do that as the season goes on.
Yeah.
People make less mistakes on game 15 than game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
But the second part is this team, like, a lot of these guys have been together well before the season started and playing together, training together. And so they kind of had, like, St. Louis kind of had this basis before, I feel like, most expansion teams start.
Yeah, I think because of the MLS Next Pro season, right? Like, St. Louis had the opportunity to have St. Louis City 2, and guys like Joao Klaus were playing in MLS Next Pro last year. Yes, they didn't play a ton, but they were playing in MLS Next Pro. Same like a Kyle Hybert, who's blown up onto the scene at center back. He had a very good week. I put him into my personal team of the week, right? Like, he was sick this week, and he was a starter next to Josh Yarrow at center back for St. Louis City 2 in 2022. And, like, I think that is a key point of maybe the MLS Next Pro season kind of was a nice bolster for having a solid core of these guys being together.
Getting the style down, getting the early, relationships with the players, or some of the players.
Yeah.
Things like that take time, they kind of already had. And so as far as like an expansion team, they were probably a few steps ahead. And not to take anything away from what they're doing, because it's been incredible.
Yeah.
But I think they probably were a few steps ahead. And that is credit to how they kind of built the team. And also, timing helped.
100%, right? And I mean, it also helps when you have a DP striker like a Joao Klaus, who I'll just give my love to again. I'll shit on him for how unathletic of an athlete he is, or looks at least. Again, I'll go to the Phoebe Buffet from Friends running in Central Park gif. Just if you haven't, just look up that gif on any social media, and you can't tell me that's not Joao Klaus running after a ball down the field. But the dude continues to score. If we're going to talk about goal contributions to start a season, he has
I'm just about to look that up.
He has 4 goal contributions in 4 games, 3 goals and an assist through 4 games. Like, he is pushing Thiago Almada and a bunch of the other top goal scorers in Major League Soccer right now for his ability. And I mean, that's coming into a brand new league.
I mean, outside of Atlanta, he's tied with Morris for first?
Him and Jesus Ferreira, yeah.
Oh, Ferreira.
Yeah, but I mean, look, he's doing it. And I think it helps when you have someone who you can trust to put the ball in the back of the net. Yes, Giacchini's there and he's looked good. And yes, Edward Loven has been there and he's been fantastic in the midfield. But you don't have a guy who you can trust to score, you're not winning games. And Joao Klaus has been that guy for St. Louis City. So, look, I think that they'll be good. I think they'll be a very good team in Major League Soccer. I can already hear the people on Twitter or social media calling me a dumbass for saying they're not a good team. They are a good team. I just have long-term concerns.
Well, also, we're 4 weeks in, right? Like, you could be saying, they are a good team, but I still, might have them out of the playoffs or something. Like, now it's obviously their bar has raised a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they could still be a good team, but tail off. And I think where they're building is still positive.
I can confidently say I was wrong to put them in last place in the Western Conference. I think that is fair. That I can admit that. I'll hold my hand up on that one. Let's talk about FC Cincinnati and the Chicago Fire game. Not because it was overly bad for the Fire, but because honestly, outside of the Atlanta United game and the St. Louis City game, I think this was maybe the 3rd best game of the weekend.
Entertaining, yeah.
definitely entertaining. But I think it was right. Like, it was a tale of two halves. It was Chicago looked really good in the first half, and Chris Mueller had himself one hell of a game. By the way, I didn't say the score. This was a 3-3 draw in Chicago. So, Cincinnati do come back to get this. Like I said, Chris Mueller, to me, this looked like Chris Mueller back in Orlando kind of days, like him as kind of like one of those top attacking young talents. And now, he's not young anymore, but he's, in his prime type of deal. But at the end of the day, Cincinnati's talent just got them back into it. Junior Moreno, he had a brace in this one. He got a brace after he just got the Venezuela national team call up. So maybe that was a little extra international confidence there for him. And then Lucho Acosta, I think he had a little bit of an illness worry, so they brought him off the bench. And and he hit a Jaylin Lindsey-esque sexy assist to Sergio Santos. Here's Cincinnati's second goal. But coming from our resident Chicago Fire fan, let's start with the positives. Let's start with, for a long time, Chicago looked really good in this game. Casper
got a goal too. I'd say that's a positive because just building confidence is really important for the Fire right now. So to me, I'm looking at this game differently than I think you did.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because this is just years now of failing to control games with the lead. And we're up 3-1 in this game. Yeah. It should be put to bed at that point. And that's 2 missed points right there that are going to be important. I'll tell you right now, they are going to come back to bite us in the ass. Those 2 points against a good Cincinnati team at home, they need those. And it's just like, it's brutal. The Fire have not, this is a little bit different, but they have not come back from down a goal to win a game in over a year. Okay. Didn't happen once last season.
That's not good. That's not good.
They gave up so many points last year that I think at the end it was 14 points that they had leads in games and ended up either drawing or losing. If you added those points to where they sat at the end of last season, just added those points, they would be easily in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is a bigger issue. And it's coming – like, I think I've had a longer leash for Ezra than a lot of people. And
Don't say it.
I'm not, because I really like the guy. But it's getting a lot more difficult to watch this and see the same mistakes and see a team like against Philly. We played pretty well. Like, I was pretty impressed with a lot of it. But there's still these dumb mistakes. There's still Kai Kamara getting a red card. I think there was 2 red cards actually in that game. There's a lot of yellows.
There's still Gaston Jimenez is in the starting lineup.
Yeah, there's just still things that that just keep coming back, and they keep coming back up. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like anyone's really trying to fix anything. And I think Ezra's a solid coach. I think he can be a good coach. I don't know why it's not working, but it's almost like a mentality thing that might be part of the club. I don't know.
That's what I was gonna say is, I hate to go with I feel like I'm the mentality guy. I feel like I'm the
I brought it up this time.
No, but I think it's personally fair. That I think it's fair and unfair. I think it's fair that a lot of what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks has been the Chicago Fire kind of reverting back to last season, losing a lot of games mentally, silly mistakes, or just not clean, and it ending up in a goal for the other team. And I hate to target a guy, but Gaston Jimenez, he's not a DP level player. He's not even a starting level player in Major League Soccer, if you ask me. But due to unforeseen circumstances, he's just and he has to be in the lineup, right? I liked what Ezra Hendrickson tried to do to start the season, putting Jairo Torres in one of the 8 roles. I like it. It's different. Ezra's seeing maybe something missing and trying to fix it with
to fix
it with a highly talented player. You can't control that Jairo Torres got a multiple week injury week 1 or week 2, whatever week 1 for you.
I do think he's coming back either next week or maybe the week
after. Should be coming back soon. I think I saw Michele Giannone put something out about him. I think he had a conversation with
potentially coming back next week.
And I think he's looking to continuously play the 8 role, which I'm not saying I love him in that position, but at least it's trying to bring a little bit something different than a Gaston Jimenez at this point, or Mauricio Pineda. Like I like Pineda, but he kills me a little bit too. The Chicago Fire allow so much space on the ball to their opponent, and I think that's what also kills them, right?
They ask for pressure almost.
Yes, and no offense to...
You're not going to offend anyone, probably.
No, I'm trying to not offend players and anyone who may potentially listen to this, but no offense to the players on this team. The back line's good. I like the back line a lot.
I love Chios, man.
You don't have the 2 midfielders who sit above that back line that can fix mistakes or welcome that pressure. Like you can't allow Lucho Acosta to track back, get a ball, turn around, spin, look up, see the space and see the play in front of him and hit an absolute beautiful ball to Sergio Santos. When you're playing the best players in the league, you can't give Lucho Acosta that much time on the ball without someone coming up.
Chara, man.
Like you need a Chara, you need a Joao Paulo, you need Gaston Jimenez to be a number 6, and he is not.
You need peak Ozzy Alonso.
You just need you need something, right? And I like a lot of the young talent that they have, but there's also going to be a certain point that how many like managers or coaches are you going to rotate through before?
Well, this is now the 3rd manager we're on from the same general GM or whatever.
It's just like, but it's like, I get it. Like Brian Gutierrez is a great player. Chris Brady's a great player. Casas, Monis, Barraza, all these guys are young, talented players who are going to be up and coming. And once they hit their stride, they're going to be starters in Major League Soccer and go to Europe and blah, blah, blah. But they're not right now. And if you're expecting to win right now or put a good product on the field right now, yes, a Brian Gutierrez can start, but I don't know. The Chicago Fire, they kill me because they show so many flashes of being good, and then
they show. I mean, Shaqiri even has been pretty good. Well, I think
we got to talk about him.
They show these signs of like 10 minutes, 15 minutes could stretch to like up to 30, where it's like, wow, this is a team that could make the playoffs, and then it's like, oh, this is why they don't. It's like the next 30 minutes.
Yeah,
and if they're just able to be more consistent. I think they have the talent. A lot of these guys are very talented players. They're just something is not being put together on the field for the full 90.
Yes, I can agree with that. And I'll leave it there. I also want to give the love to, at least I'll leave it here from the Chicago Fire point of view. If I say something that leads to a fire thought on you, go for it. But I also want to give the love to Cincinnati, right? That you're battling back early season. I still think they're trying to figure things out with Brenner and Brandon Vasquez kind of getting into maybe what they were looking like towards last year. Like I said, Lucho coming off the bench, not starting in this one. You go down 3-0.5, and you want to talk about a team that won this game.
I think it was 3-1. Did they not score?
It was 3-1. Junior Moreno did have one in the first half. Apologies.
I think they went up 1-0, honestly.
It was I fucked it all up. It was 2-1 at the half, and then they went down 3-1 shortly after. It was a 46-minute goal. I didn't miss it by that much.
Yeah, you're good.
You come back from down 3-1 at the 46th-minute mark, and you just have the mental toughness to come back into it on the road. I give them credit. This is the reason why people pick the Cincinnati team to be really good, because they have the talent, and I think they're showing the mental side of being a good team.
Counterpoint, they probably shouldn't have been down at all.
Fair.
If they have aspirations as high as they do, and they should, I almost feel like it was not a great performance that ended up being a good performance. That sounds insane to say, but yeah.
Oh no, like I think I said this on Twitter. Cincinnati is going to walk away from that game still pissed off, even though they saved the point.
Right.
Because they should have been better than that from the jump, and they weren't. And look, at the end of the day, you get a point on the road in Major League Soccer. You kind of have to be happy.
I said it earlier. It's important. It's hard to win.
But again, if you want to be to the LAFC level in MLS, you have to win the games where you should be drawing, or you shouldn't be drawing. Right? I guess that's the better way of saying it. I don't want to drag on the conversation about week 4 on too much longer. So is there any of these games or points that we have left on the notes that you want to talk about? If not, we can
I think because I was so high on Austin, I kind of want to just address some of their struggles.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go for it? Because it was a continue to struggle game.
It's also against a Houston team that we all had pretty low expectations on. Obviously, Hector Herrera gets a goal in this game, and I think he's been pretty much pressured and told, you got to start scoring. He needs to be that guy for them. And this was a good performance from him and good performance from the Dynamo. Austin is just blowing my mind right now. Like what is going on? And I had them. I had them either winning the West or I had them winning a competition. It might have been.
You had them winning the Western Conference. I'm looking at it right now.
I think I had them winning the Supporters Shield or something.
You had them winning MLS Cup and the Western Conference.
It's still possible.
I mean, look, we're week 4 in. You can't jump off ship yet.
I also think had Josh Wolf as Coach of the Year, and he has not been near that to me.
You did have Josh Wolf, yes.
Yeah, in dealing with some of the stuff they've been like. This is now, after week 1, it was like, okay, it's week 1. St. Louis is obviously better than we expected. Maybe, and I was talking about Austin last week after we watched them in CCL get demolished.
Yeah.
And then attempt. And we were talking about it during the game, that second leg, about how, they're putting together a lot of chances, but no one is scoring. Zardes has not been good.
No. And Diego Fagundes has been disconnected. Yeah. I mean, look, you can go down the list. Rigoni has been disconnected, but sorry, I don't want to interrupt your point too much.
No, keep going. This is exactly what I wanted.
It's literally that. It's literally just the players. And I was thinking about this actually earlier today when I was picking up water for the house. This is what I think about.
You know what they don't have in Austin?
No, is a lot of the players who, maybe I don't even know if maybe if at this point it is overperforming. They overperformed in 2022 are not showing the same level in 2023. I almost felt like I was dumb for questioning that the Giasse Zardes signing was bad. And, I'm kind of looking smart now after that take, but watch Giasse Zardes now go off and score 20 goals. But like Diego Fagundes overperforming in 2022. Again, is it the Gervisi was Thiago Almada last year? Did Gervisi just drag so much attention that it allowed other guys to overperform? I mean,
he's still been solid though.
He's been good, but no one else performed.
Level, but
exactly. And then maybe now that they're out of CCL, they can kind of shift focus. They bring in that new center back now. Like, maybe they can kind of try to bring things back into the right path now that they only have one competition really to focus on. But it's been bad. It's been bad to start 2023.
2 wins, 2 losses, 6 goals against though. I mean, the center back better help.
Yeah, I mean, look, he better. And the thing is, the Leo Väisänen, the guy who they brought to replace Gabriel Rubinson, Väisänen hasn't been that bad. But it's like they don't have anyone else to play next to him, and that's why Alex Ring is playing there right now.
Yeah, and Kip is out again, I think, too.
Yeah, damn Kip Keller.
We've always been high on Kip Keller. Me and Sam actually were the Kip Keller truthers long ago.
You were long ago. I think he was a rookie last year, but it's fine.
Well, it was when he was drafted. We're like, Kip Keller.
Yeah, like guys, Kip Keller's gonna be amazing. Then he's sending back passes to Jared Stroud.
All right. It's been 3 weeks.
I want to give love, like you said, to Hector Herrera. I personally think this was his best game in a Houston Dynamo uniform. He scored his first goal for the Dynamo. It was the game sealing one in the 86th minute. So good for Hector Herrera. I think if he's good, Houston, same thing like I said about Joao Paulo. He's good. I think Houston's floor rises. I don't think it's the same level as Seattle, but you get what I'm saying.
It's not.
I also
it just isn't the same level.
I want to give a quick shout out to Martin Pass, FC Dallas's goalkeeper. It'll only go down in the scorebook as one save on a penalty kick because they had to retake the penalty because he jumped off his line too soon. But the dude had back-to-back PK saves against Willie Agata and Eric Tommy and Willie Agata. He jumped off his line too early against Tommy, and then Agata, he saved it again. So way to put that back-to-back saves in to get a 2-1 win for FC Dallas.
We don't need to talk up any more keepers.
No more keepers?
Not after Pedro didn't have the best weeks.
Sorry, of course. Well, actually, I do want to talk about one more keeper really quick just to give him some love. Charlotte FC, which again, stay tuned for after Jason and I talk. We're going to dive into an interview between me and Jaylin Lindsey from Charlotte FC to talk about their 2-1 win over Orlando City. But George Marks, he got his first, I think he was signing last year from their academy or something like that. Vaughn, I wish he was here because he would probably tell me no, like he was a super draft pick or some shit. But George Marks, he got his first start in Major League Soccer, 6 saves in the win. So he did his job to make sure Charlotte got the first win of the season there. Let's quickly talk about CCL. We're moving on into the round of the quarterfinals of CCL.
Round of 8.
Round of 8.
Round 8.
Right? Yeah, that's 8.
That's 8.
All of the MLS teams are on one side of the bracket because Austin FC and Orlando City had to get eliminated, and some of these Liga MX teams had to break my heart. And
wait, can we just pull up a clip from last episode?
Pull up me acting all fucking.
We were so happy. We were like, maybe like 0 of them move on, and like 3 of the 4 moved on or something.
So for the non-MLS side of the bracket, we have Tigres of Liga MX taking on Motagua. Motagua did knock out Pachuca, so maybe Motagua can go back-to-back routes here on.
That would be very impressive.
On Liga MX side, I'll take it. I'll root for that. And then Violette, who knocked out Austin FC, takes on Club Leon. So I think in a realistic world, we're going to see 2 Liga MX sides make it out of that games and go to the semifinal and have a Liga MX side, whether that's Tigres or that's Club Leon in the CCL final on that side. But on the MLS side of things, we have Vancouver and LAFC in one game or one aggregate, and we have the Philadelphia Union and Atlas FC. And Atlas got pushed to the absolute edge by Olympia. So I personally think the Philadelphia Union should be able to take that aggregate against Atlas, move on to a CCL semifinal. And sorry, Whitecaps fans, I think your glory ends here.
We spent like 20 minutes on LAFC. I think we all know what we're choosing.
I think LAFC move on there. So I think what we kind of expected before starting the season is LAFC or Philly in the final on one side, a Liga MX team in the final on the other side. And, we'll see if MLS can do it back to back. Any opposition to what I said about all of that there?
No, I mean, I agree. I think Philly might be one of the teams we want in that position, right?
I picked Philly to win. I picked Philly to win CCL. That's all I know.
I picked LAFC. Yeah, I think Vaughn did as well.
You and Vaughn did, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think where we're at right now, there's a very, very, very high % chance that we have an MLS team in the final, which is great.
Let's hope. I really want to see Philly take out Atlas, and I mean, obviously, I'll have confidence then because there would only be 3 options of MLS.
It would be guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean that's. But I really want.
I'd be pretty confident then, that an MLS team would make the final in a situation where only 3 were going for it.
Atlas is beatable. NYCFC beat them in Campeones Cup at the end of last year. They lost 4-1 to Olympia, and yes, they had to come back in the second game at Atlas, but Philly's got this. You dupe away. I want the dupe song playing.
Do you know who is hosting the first leg?
Yes, I do. Philly is hosting the first leg.
Okay.
So Philly,
take a big lead. That's a very important one then.
April 4th is Philly. April 12th is at Atlas.
So I prefer when they go to Mexico for the first legs because it gives me more hope in case it goes badly.
It's like I had hope for Orlando in the second leg, yeah, but it doesn't always work out,
Hey, didn't put up a horrible performance. It was
okay. So really quickly, Orlando City, they get eliminated from CCL without losing a game. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. That's all I want to say. They drew 2 games and got eliminated.
Honestly, my theory of Pedro Galicia winning that for them almost came true.
Well, I mean, honestly, yes, it did. But
or maybe it was Vaughn who said winning PKs or something.
We can dissect what's wrong with CCL in future podcasts. Let's look ahead to week 5 of the 2023 MLS season. And Jason, I will let you pick any game that you want from next week that excites you that you're going to be watching on Apple TV.
All right. I have two at the moment.
Can name both if you want.
No, I'll go, then you go, and if you don't mention it, I'll name it.
Okay.
I think Philly Orlando is one that I want to watch. That is in
Philly.
Yeah, in Philly. I don't know why it took me so long to look. Yeah, I think that'll be a good game. Again, just 2 of the better Eastern Conference teams going head to head, and I just want to see where they come out. It'll be a good gauge of where these teams are at currently.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know if this was the other one you were going to go for, but I'm going to say Nashville SC hosting FC Cincinnati.
That was.
You obviously said it earlier. Nashville SC has only allowed 1 goal to start this season, and it was their 1-0 loss to New England this week, or I guess last week, whatever. So Nashville's off to a hot start. Defensively, they're looking really good. Cincinnati, they are scoring goals a little bit. I would like to see Brenner and Brandon Vasquez kind of get them a little bit more involved, but they look to be on a pretty good path. So I'm curious to see if Cincinnati can continue to string together good performances against, going up arguably, the top defensive team that they're going to face. I know they face Seattle already, but the top defensive team that they're going to face right now in Nashville SC, and it's at Nashville. So road performances are always tough.
Yeah. I mean, if you were going to mention one more, I think we just have to say St. Louis.
Yeah. See if you keep
they're going to Salt Lake. And it's obviously just interesting to see how long they can keep going like this.
See if they go 5 for 5. I have faith in friend of the pod, Andrew Brody. Okay, I have faith in friend of the pod, Andrew Brody, and locking things down, locking down Joao Klaus. Let's turn things to me, I guess, in a
more
future. It's more me, right? I hate it. I actually do hate it. Very, very odd for someone who's like, I'm a naturally introverted person to host the podcast.
I'm pretty introverted as well.
Don't like it, but here we are, and I'm doing it, and I've been doing it.
Yeah, but we're just talking to each other. We don't really I guess for me, in my mind, I'm just talking to you.
I'm just talking to you too, man. Fuck the listeners. Fuck the viewers. I'm talking to you.
No. I like the listeners.
All right. Well, let's not drag
We've got a lot of friends of the pod.
We do have a lot of friends of the pod. We have another friend of the pod, Jaylin Lindsey, Charlotte FC fullback. Talk to him. Guys, enjoy the conversation. Thank you for tuning in for this full episode this week. We'll be back for episode 259 next week, where we chat through week 5 and look ahead to week 6. And I get married the week after that, so we'll see if I'm around after that. I'll probably be out for a week or 2 and let Jason, Sam, and Vaughn take the reins from there. But we'll get to that next week. Again, enjoy my interview with Charlotte FC fullback Jaylin Lindsey. MLS Aces Podcast. We're back with another player interview, and right now we have Jaylin Lindsey, standout young right back from Charlotte FC. Jaylin, how are you? It's a pleasure to have you on, and it's a pleasure to talk Charlotte FC.
Oh, I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to us talking.
Well, you guys are coming off your first win of the season, right? I feel like that's always like a nice kind of just pressure to get off your back. How is the locker room vibes? How are your vibes right now after getting, your first 3 points on the season?
I think the vibes now, obviously, especially how, our first 3 games went, I think this kind of gave our group an extra bit of confidence and kind of gave us hope that we can still do this and not put ourselves down after the first 3 games. And the locker room is really good right now. I mean, it's always been really good. Obviously the results haven't been there, but our locker room is usually really good. So, for me as well, I'm stoked and, I'm excited to keep going with the team.
Is there Any difference that you're seeing early on between, I guess, what the 2023 locker room is looking like compared to 2022? Obviously, there's different kind of events and different mindsets going on around it. Right now, you have Latanzio's first full season as manager compared to where he was an interim manager, and I guess there was more question marks about his future. Obviously, the tragedy with Anton, I'm sure that's still affecting the locker room and the guys and yourself like heavily. And I couldn't even imagine what that pressure or what that kind of just pain is like on a daily basis. So is there any differences that you feel like is maybe kind of leading to a little bit of a struggle to start the season, or is it just, kind of early season struggles? We'll get back into it.
Yeah, I think it's just more of like early season struggles. I mean, to be fair, like the first 3 games, I think it was kind of more just our fault and not, the opposition, playing better than us. I mean, I think in all those games, like we were the better team at the end of the day. We just, one just got maybe unlucky with some stuff, and maybe they're just kind of like some casual errors that, we made in our part. So, yeah, for sure. I think it's just more of just, mental lapses that we've had in our part. But I mean, that's soccer at the end of the day. You live and you learn, and that's all we have to do from now is, learn from those losses. And, obviously now we just got the win this past Saturday. So hopefully we keep the momentum in the next couple of weeks.
Obviously, I mean, I think that there's obviously some mistakes you've seen on the field, some mental mistakes, whatever it may be. But like you said, that's soccer. Mistakes happen, and it's life too, right? You learn from your mistakes, and
yeah, exactly.
I don't want to harp on the point too much, but obviously the tragedy of losing Anton Walkes is huge around the MLS world, around the Charlotte world, and around you guys. Is there anything that like you guys are doing for him in his honor this season that maybe people around the league or the casual fan may not see?
I mean, yeah, we put a big emphasis, especially on Anton and obviously his life and how much he impacted our lives as well, like as teammates and obviously as coaches as well. We emphasize things that he said about us, about our club. Obviously during our pitch at the training ground, we have, a big number 5 for him and, AW on the field at the training ground. So we know that he's always there with us at training every single day. And it's just little things like that, gives us that reminder and, lets, us know mentally that, he's still here with us, and that he's going with us or is going through this stuff with us as well. And, it's just little things like that, we're doing to kind of honor his, legacy and stuff.
From someone who's obviously not a player, not a coach, not involved with Charlotte or anything like that, I think the tifo and the celebration that was put up for Anton in to start the Atlanta United game was like absolutely special. Like had me kind of getting some goosebumps and stuff like that from like you guys on the field. You guys see that? Like I don't know. Does anything go through your mind of like kind of like holy crap, like that's special?
No. For me, for me personally, like it was really special when they brought the tifo because, obviously that's just obviously 2 clubs that he played at and played a big role at, and obviously Anton was a big figure for both clubs, and obviously when the tifo came up, I mean, I remember I looked at whoever was next to me, and I was just like, dude, like this is amazing, like this is awesome, like it's like to honor him in that way, especially when in that type of game. I mean, it was just such a special moment just for everybody.
Shifting away from I guess maybe some more sad stuff into the game this past weekend. Obviously, it was a great result, a great performance from you guys. And on top of things, it was a great specific performance from you. From me watching the game, and I rewatch at Major League Soccer games and probably taking too much MLS content at points. But this seemed to be a really standout game from you. Obviously, we'll talk about the assist in a second. But did anything feel extra this past weekend because you looked like you were playing on a whole other level?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, especially this season, I mean, for me personally, I had a strong, preseason. Obviously I didn't get any minutes the first 3 games, which is totally okay. Like it is what it is. Like I just have to push the guys in front of me that, obviously are playing. And because at the end of the day, we're, one team and we want to win. So we need everybody to be on the same mindset and kind of push each other. So, but like when I got the call, or not the call, I would say, but like when I got, told that I was going to start this weekend. Obviously it's a bit of a confidence booster because that means to me that like, I'm doing something right, whether it's in training or, off the field. And it was a really, special moment for me because it was something that obviously I worked hard for as well throughout preseason and the beginning of the season as well. So I think kind of my extra motivation was like, look, we lost, the first 3 games. Fans aren't really, that happy. So it's more for us. It was almost like we needed to win that game in order to, change our season just a little bit. And obviously, I know that's a long season, but that win just on Saturday was just a baby step. And I think that's my extra motivation to me was like, we have to win this game. Otherwise, we're, our mental side of the game will just be going down, and we'll be as a team will be deflated because you don't want to start the season 0-4 and obviously being at the bottom of the table of the standings. So I think that was my extra motivation for me. And, hopefully I want to continue to have that kind of, spirit throughout, every game throughout the rest of the season. So
personally, like when I listen to like podcasts or content or anything like that, right? Like I like to listen to content that come from current players, former players, whatever it may be, because they just offer a completely different, I think, side of the game that us fans sometimes may overlook. And I think one of the big things that I constantly hear is the mental side of things, the locker room, like vibes in the locker room, like stuff like that really can change how a team is performing. When you guys, like you touched on it a little bit, like the first 3 games of the season didn't go well. Christian comes in and he says, we're making us some shifts. Jaylin, you're starting at right back. George is getting the start in net. How, I guess, does that change the vibes in that moment? If it changes the vibes in that moment in the locker room, or is it just like, these are the changes, this is what coach is telling us to do, let's go see how this performs, and then we'll kind of take it from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we have a good group of guys. I mean, I think I wouldn't say anybody in our locker room is like selfish in a way or like, mad about some stuff, because I mean, at the end of the day, everybody does want to play. Everybody, wants to contribute to the team. But sometimes things change within the season that, you kind of have to adapt to the situation. So, it's just things like that. And everyone's just motivating each other in the same way. I mean, obviously the first 3 games for me, like, my kind of goal was obviously, after the first one, we lost, it's first game of the season, whatever. We got the second game, we lost again, third game. But like, all through that time period, it's like, especially personally for me, I have to keep pushing my teammates to be like, hey, like, we got to keep going. Like try to figure things out, because at the end of the day, if I sit there and try to dwell on myself and say like, oh, like I should be playing, like, blah, blah, like, I don't know why, like that sends a bad vibe to the rest of the team. And, especially with this win on Saturday, that goes to show you that we do have a locker room that is very supportive of everybody. It doesn't matter if, people play the first 3 games and then don't play. Like everyone has a contribution no matter what, whether it's in training or in the locker room. So, I mean, especially with the changes that we've made, I mean, everyone's been super supportive, and that's a big thing in a locker room.
Well, I mean, I think it's also easy to support when someone like yourself gets a ball at his feet, looks up, and pings an absolute beautiful assist down the field to Enzo Copetti. So I want to ask quickly about it. Was that something like drawn up on the practice field, or was that just like you got the ball, you looked up, you saw Mackenzie and Enzo running, and you were like, I'm going to hit the crap out of this ball?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I know Mackenzie and Enzo's tendencies. Like they're both runners that are willing to run in behind. And in that case scenario, I know like Orlando was kind of like, not, I wouldn't say pressing us, but they're playing a couple of good long balls that were kind of like pushing us back a little bit. And at that point, it's more of like, me before I got the ball, I was like, look, I know Enzo's a runner. I know Mackenzie's gonna run it behind. You know what? I'm gonna play this ball in a good position for them to obviously run onto it and kind of stretch Orlando out as well, because they were kind of like, pressing us a little bit. And that, I mean, obviously that ball for me, like, I feel like obviously it's something that, I am, happy about, but I think that kind of changed the complexion of the game a little bit, especially in that first half, because then, Orlando they kind of shift and like, okay, now we have to back up a little bit and be safe now. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of one of those things where I wouldn't say maybe draw it up, but it's in a sense of like, it's just about knowing your players and like what their best capability is. And I know Enzo can run it behind, Mackenzie can run it behind, and try to put those guys in the right positions is what we needed to do. So,
I mean, look, I think it takes intelligence to understand how Orlando's playing it. And like you said, knowing the guys you have in front of you, and then also just the pure execution of like, you hit that ball perfectly. And obviously you trust an Enzo or a Mackenzie to finish that. And they did. And like you said, you changed the complexion of the game from that point on. So, I mean, congratulations on the win. Absolutely amazing. I think this
thank you.
from a fan kind of seems like a game or a win or just a momentum swinger type of deal. Like you said, right? Maybe you get those positive vibes back in the locker room, back in the training grounds, and then things kind of just build on it from here because you guys do have a very talented squad. But I want to kind of talk about you really quickly because you've always been an interesting player to me. You've been around for so long, I feel like, in my brain, but you're only 22. You're turning 23 soon, I think. So happy birthday.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But how does it feel to almost be like still technically, I guess, the kid in the locker room, but you're like a veteran still on its own point?
Yeah, I mean, it's just about finding that balance, like obviously with my age, you can look at me and be like, oh yeah, he's a young kid, like, but like at the same time, like this is my 6th year in the league, so it's like I have that experience already kind of built up already. So like that's how I kind of am in the locker room. Like I kind of want to be that guy, for those younger guys that are coming in, maybe their first year or they're coming from college, like, and kind of like be that kind of like anchor to be like they can adapt easily, within the team and with their experience as well, and just kind of like, be there for them because I know how it is to be sometimes, rookie. Like sometimes you go from, you're playing, let's say for example, you're playing every minute, you're the guy in college or you're the guy in the academy, and then you get to the first team and you think like you can kind of just like work your way right in the starting lineup, but it's not that way because there's, 18 or like 20 other guys that are probably even better than you or have better attributes than you. So it's about, for me, like I see it in 2 ways. Like I have to be that guy that can kind of help them and make them understand, like, look, this is what you're going to go through. How are you mentally, going to push yourself when the back's against the wall type stuff. And so I'm kind of there to give them advice or whatnot. And also at the same time, I'm also there to be, helpful to maybe some of the older guys that aren't used to the league. Like, for example, like giving advice to, either, on our team, like Ashley Westwood or like Nathan Byrne or like, other guys that are kind of technically veterans, but haven't been in the league that long. It's about telling them like, these are certain players to watch out for. Like, this is how they play, like a certain team, play a certain play style. Like, so like, for example, next weekend, like, it's about telling those guys, like, this is how Red Bulls plays. Like, they're a high pressing team. Like, we have to watch out, what we're going to do, to kind of exploit them a little bit. So it's about just finding that balance. And I just kind of like that role because it's like you said, like I'm still kind of like a kid a little bit, but at the same time, like I have the experience. So, it's a good little balance, but I'm enjoying it so far. So.
I mean, look, I think you said that perfectly because, like, right, like going back to your time at SKC, you were sitting behind a true MLS veteran and a Graham Zusi, right? I'm a guy who I'm sure you've learned so much from, and now you're coming to a role in Charlotte where, Nathan Byrne is still a veteran of the game, but he's new to Major League Soccer, so now you're teaching him a little bit too. Like, you can teach me, but I'm going to teach you as well. So I'm sure it's a very unique position, but I'm sure it's also like a cool position to kind of be in for yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I enjoy it every single day. Like I'm still there to give the young guys crap and, obviously at the same time, give them advice, but, I'm kind of just there to, obviously I want to help the team as much as possible and kind of be close to everybody as much as I can just to kind of keep the team gelling together a little bit.
So you said it, and I'll finish things up for this conversation here with kind of Red Bulls next week. So, like you said, Red Bulls press. We know that. We know energy drink style soccer, and obviously Red Bulls are coming out. Dante Van Zier, their new DP striker, winger, whatever he's playing at Red Bull. He's coming off a game-winning goal as well. When you guys look at the Red Bulls, how do you guys defensively prepare for that? How do you prepare for a team that's going to just press the hell out of you for 90 minutes?
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say anything. It's about tactics. It's just about, it's more about us kind of playing our game, playing kind of our possession-based, possession-based to like, obviously direct attack style of football. So it's just about kind of keeping our style of play as usual, but it's also about staying calm. Like we know they're going to come press, but it's just all about just staying calm and just kind of moving the ball around and make them chase a little bit because one, it's an advantage because they're playing away from home. So that gives us an advantage a little bit with the fans. And, obviously too, with like our play style, like, I mean, we did it last year. We beat them at home last year, I think 2-0. So it's about kind of doing that same thing again and just staying calm in that game. I think we outplayed them by a mile and we played really so well. So it's just about keeping the ball, moving the ball and just kind of being just confident and, being calm.
My final question for you. Red Bulls are pressing. They're maybe that back line's inching up a little bit too much. Do we get another Jaylin Lindsey just banger from deep to Copetti?
I mean, like obviously if it's there, it's there. But we'll just see how the play plays out. But obviously I'm hoping to kind of get on that contribution sheet again, and that's what I want to continue to do. So hopefully I can get more throughout the season. So we'll see.
Jaylin, thank you so much, man, for coming on and talking a little soccer with me today.
I appreciate you, man.